Hello, I'm Kimberly McDonald, an 11-year teacher in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, in the Okaloosa County School System. I am certified in elementary education as well as exceptional student education for grades K through 12 and hold an endorsement in autism spectrum disorders. I'm here to speak with you today about assistive technologies. In 1990, when we passed IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, assistive technology was included as a portion of this. So in with this, classrooms began changing at a rapid pace. Inclusion is the goal. And so teachers who were not used to diverse student populations were left fighting for ways to adapt. Assistive technology is one of those amazing branches that you can reach into. It's a tool bag. Technology should be used as a tool to increase student success and to make inclusion easier for not only the student but the educator as well. The Tech Act defines assistive technology, and I'm going to quote the Tech Act here, as any item or piece of equipment or system that increases or maintains the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. So we reach for assistive technology when we need to give access to a student or when we need ease of classroom management. So we want as our main goals to improve self-care tasks for the students, their functionality and independence and day-to-day things that they would do to care for themselves while at school. And it also extends into the home and other environments as well. We want to improve communications by giving support through assistive technology. We want to increase the possibilities and opportunities for academic success. And it all really boils down to that we want to improve the quality of our students' lives, and we can do that through the use of assistive technology in the classroom and beyond. Some examples that you may have heard of, maybe not, of assistive technology that are pretty mainstream now and pretty accessible for low cost, and most school districts have these for student populations that are in need. But one of my all-time favorites, my very first grant I ever wrote as a teacher, was for a smartboard. One of the most mainstream assistive technologies for a variety of student disabilities. Adaptive keyboards can assist with visual and OT difficulties that students may have. Touch screen technologies, which now, it's not only a part that can be added to a computer to make it a touch screen, but iPads are readily accessible, iPods, anything like that. Almost everything now is touch screen compatible. Voice-activated technology, even eye gaze technology for physical disabilities, and then some non-technological assisted devices, paper holders, page turners, pencil grips, and the list goes on and on. Any tool that you can provide to a student that is going to reduce a barrier that they have for completing a task, caring for themselves, or learning is going to be considered an assistive technology, and it is your responsibility to seek out and provide these things for your students so that all students can access all domains of what happens in the educational setting. So one of the most quickly growing student populations are those affected by autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. It's characterized by a difficulty for these students in communication, social relationships, and extends into behavioral difficulties as well. One of the references you'll find at the end of this video, Mohammed, reminds us that children affected by ASD, they receive information and process the information much more differently than their typical developing peers. So they process visual information much, much more effectively than just audio or even physical stimulation. So any kind of technological software programs, apps, iPads, touch screens, things like that are going to be more appealing for them because they're quicker for them to understand and can respond. So it's more of an immediate reward as well when you praise them for performing. The benefits of using typical assistive technologies for students affected by autism is that it can increase their independence, especially in the domain of communication. It can strengthen their academic skills, where they might not learn from the auditory input that you're giving through a lecture or a lesson. They can through visuals. They can learn routines, discover leisure activities, things for fun. Often that's a difficulty in the social domain of autism spectrum disorder. And then improving interrelationships and building social skills that make them more accepted by their peers and can help them build those friendships, which learning is a very social thing. So, one is in the hand of the other. A very specific example of something that I found through teaching and through research is a program called TeachTown. It can be used on the iPad, a whole group with a touchscreen smartboard, just on a regular computer, but it increases student vocabulary. It's based in ABA, or Applied Behavioral Analysis, and is very appealing. It has capabilities for the students to learn how to make requests, communicate their needs, ask for things that they need, even identify and name their feelings. It also has a part where it's called Pick a Word, that's actually the name, where supported by pictures and visuals, they can express themselves so much more, especially with our more severe and profound students with autism that are maybe nonverbal or just in the echolalic forms of communication. Building communication builds everything, relationships, behaviors, and academic success. And in with all disabilities, not just autism, but providing assistive technologies provides a student an alternate method to perform, communicate, and also to be able to demonstrate their knowledge and abilities. They may not be able to do so with a verbal presentation or even answering a question for students that really have communication delays. So giving them these assistive technologies allow them to access things that they can understand, but it also allows them to express what they know. Teachers often find that the most difficult thing is to really assess students on what they have taught them, because the students aren't able to express the learned knowledge. So that is another very, very important motivation for providing assistive technology. Another area that teachers are very familiar with and often struggle with are students that are diagnosed with attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The number of those diagnoses are also climbing, and they present quite a few challenges in the classroom for attending to tasks. ADD often has behavioral aspects that go with it that could be disruptive and hinder a child's ability to spend time on task, which puts them at risk for academic failure. Completion of tasks and attending to tasks are the biggest things here. So assistive technology, media, software, apps, these are the things that are really highly effective for students affected by ADD and ADHD due to the assistive technology's capability of the rapid cause and effect cycle. You click on an answer, it immediately gives you a reward, a point, or even a little, I've seen on-screen celebrations as a kindergarten teacher are what the students like. They love when it says, great job, but they get that immediate feedback. And so rather than this long period of input with a little bit of output from the student, it's a very rapid cycle. And so it appeals to the brain and learning style of someone with ADD or ADHD. Also, the bright colors and animation provided with software, apps, and things of that nature, smartboard lessons, it doesn't hurt. Anything that's visually stimulating is going to increase time on task or time attending to a lecture for a student affected by this disability. Examples of milder assistive technology that's not lecture-based is things that would help teach our ADD and ADHD students to self-regulate their behaviors in class, to recognize when they are off task and be able to refocus themselves, and self-monitor their completion abilities while they're in independent centers. We want increased independence for these students while they are still accessing the curriculum and experiencing success in learning. So examples of this can be visual timers. I have found this to be very effective. You will set a timer. The ones that have the red are my favorite. You expect the student to stay on task when they get distracted. Instead of being distracted by surrounding stimuli, they often allow that distraction to be looking over at the visual timer, which is a reminder to stay on task, that there is an end coming soon. And that training does help students stay on task in centers, independent work, lecture. Also things like electronic vibrating beepers. They know that that's going to go off when they're able to take a brain break. That helps extend that time and train students to have a little bit more stamina. So some of the other things are emotional and behavioral disorders. So assistive technology benefits for this are vast. Assistive technologies and technology in general can be offered as a reward for desirable behaviors because it's very stimulating and motivating for a student. So just offering it, independent time away for you to play an academic game, for you to watch videos, all kinds of things like that. Students are going to work for that, and they will work to self-regulate their emotions and monitor their behaviors if they know that that is a reward that's coming. Assistive technology for behavioral and emotional disorders can also be therapeutic. It can be calming, musical, videos in the middle of a meltdown or an outburst. It can be a calming resource for you to offer that student in the classroom so that you can continue teaching while providing for that emotional need of the student. And assistive technology can be an alternate method to continue learning when the student cannot maintain appropriate social interaction anymore. When you have behavioral disorders that are severe, or students that have emotional disorders that are, they come out of nowhere. Sometimes the triggers are not able to be identified right away, but it can be offered as an alternative path so they can stay on task. You can't stay with the group, I understand. Why don't you go practice on MobyMax doing your fluency instead of our whole group number talk, things like that. So an alternative to keep the learning moving when the social part or the emotional part has shut down. Also, specific programs can help students identify feelings and develop coping mechanisms. So social stories that are online, those are great for any emotional, behavioral, communication, autism, so many, I could go on and on, disorders. It helps them apply. There's videos and all kinds of things that they can do to learn there. Now, I saved a domain of physical disabilities for last because it almost seems like the most obvious, but sometimes it's not. A physical disability could be a wheelchair-bound student, paralysis, cerebral palsy. It could be a temporarily injured student without use of an arm or legs. So that can range from a wheelchair to eye tracking technology for them to answer, using a smartboard in their visual for students that have paralysis, communication output systems for students who are nonverbal or have lost the ability to verbally communicate, visually and hearing impaired students as well. Assistive technology is available. It's out there, and it is your job as an educator to seek it out and provide it. I don't want that to feel like it's an added job for you. When you spend the time to find assistive technology, it will break down the barriers for your students. When things are easier for your students, it's easier for you as an educator to provide that standards-based instruction. You will find ways to assess what a child knows where you wouldn't have thought maybe they were learning before. You want to include all students. The benefit is not just theirs. It's going to be yours as well. So I encourage you, as an educator, reach out to someone in your district, reach out to your technology support people, write grants. It's a wonderful thing. And never stop learning. If a student is having difficulty, there's a tool to help them. There is. You just have to find it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you learned a lot by this video. And if nothing more, I hope you are motivated to go research some difficulties your students might be having and find a tool to help them overcome that and access the educational setting and relationship with you, just like their typical developing peers. Thank you.